Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatu Sevayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati. Next key. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, talks between Narad and King Prachin Barahi. Text number 45 onwards. Shabda Brahmani Dushpare Charanto Uru Vistare Mantra Lingar Vyavachinnam Bhajanto Na Vidu Param. Despite the cultivation of Vedic knowledge, which is unlimited, and the worship of different demigods by the symptoms of Vedic mantras, demigod worship does not help one to understand the supreme powerful personality of Godhead. So, previous verse we saw the most powerful Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Manu, Daksha, all the different sages, even they cannot understand. In Narada, even I cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by our austerities, meditation, and education. So now he says, despite the cultivation of Vedic knowledge, which is unlimited, and the worship of different demigods by the symptoms of Vedic mantras, demigod worship does not help one to understand the supreme powerful personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. Most people are interested in worshipping demigods to acquire powers. Each demigod has a particular power. For instance, demigod Indra, the king of heaven, has power to shower rain on the surface of the globe to give sufficient vegetation to the earth. This demigod is described in the Vedas, Vajra Hasta Purandara. Indra rules the water supply with the thunderbolt in his hand. The thunderbolt itself is controlled by Indra. Similarly, other demigods, Agni, Varuna, Chandra, Surya, have particular powers. All these demigods are worshipped in the Vedic hymns through a symbolic weapon. Therefore, it is said here, Mantra Lingar Vyavachinnam. By such worship, karmis may obtain the benediction of material opulence in the form of animals, riches, beautiful wives, many followers, and so on. By such material opulence, however, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada writes, karmis may obtain benediction of material opulence in the form of animals. Of course, these days nobody cares for animals. They just want horsepower. So horsepower means cars or other vehicles. And here Prabhupada says in the purport, every demigod has a particular power. So he described about Indra. Indra has power to shower rain on the surface of the globe. But in the shloka, so that is why in the shloka it says the supreme powerful personality of Godhead. See, all these demigods, they have powers. Their powers come from Krishna. He is the supreme powerful. So just by worshipping the demigods, one cannot understand Krishna. And by worshipping demigods, one gets material opulence, and definitely by material opulence, one cannot understand Krishna. Yada yasya anugrinati bhagwan atma bhavita sajahati matim loke vedeja parinishtitam. When a person is fully engaged in devotion service, he is favored by the Lord, who bestows his causeless mercy. At such a time, the awakened devotee gives up all material activities and ritualistic performances mentioned in the Vedas. In the previous verse, those who are in the knowledge having been described as unable to appreciate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, this verse indicates that those who are followers of the Vedic rituals, as well as those who are followers of fruitive activities, are unable to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In these two verses, both the Karmis and Jnanis are described as unfit to understand Him. As described by Srila Rupa Goswami, only when one is completely free from mental speculation and fruitive activity, anya bhilashita shunyam, can one engage in pure devotional service without being polluted by material desires. The significant word Atma Bhavita indicates that the Lord is awakened in one's mind if one constantly thinks of Him. A pure devotee is always thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. Sarvai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo. A pure devotee cannot remain a moment without being absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme Personality of God. This constant thinking of the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita as Satat Yuktanam, always engaging in the Lord's service. Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. This is devotion service in love and affection. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead dictates to the pure devotee from within, the devotee is saved from all material activities. So this is what makes a devotee very dear to the Lord. He's always absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. He's always absorbed in talking about the Lord. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead dictates to the pure devotee from within, the devotee is saved from all material activities. Even the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies are considered material activities because by such activities, one is simply elevated to the other planetary systems, the residential abodes of the demigods. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. The word Atma Bhavita also indicates that a devotee is always engaged in preaching to deliver conditioned souls. It is said of the six Goswamis, the Nana Shastra Vicharane, a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always thinking of how fallen, conditioned souls can be delivered. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, influenced by the merciful devotee's attempt to deliver fallen souls, enlightens the people in general from within by his causeless mercy. If a devotee is blessed by another devotee, he becomes free from karma and jnana activities. As confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Vedeshu Durlabham. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be realized through karma and jnana. The Lord is realized only by a sincere devotee. And this is what the shlok also says. Prabhupada explains that the Lord himself, he dictates from within and he stops a devotee from following anything else except bhakti. This material world, the cosmic manifestation, is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entities have come here to enjoy themselves. The Vedic instructions guide them according to different regulative principles. An intelligent person takes advantage of these instructions. Thus, they enjoy material life without being disturbed. This is actually illusion. And to get out of this illusion by one's own endeavor is very difficult. The general populace is engaged in material activities, and when people are a little advanced, they become attracted by the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. However, when one is frustrated in the performance of these ritualistic ceremonies, he again comes to material activities. In this way, both the followers of Vedic rituals and the followers of material activities are entangled in conditional life. So, ritualistic ceremonies are basically material activities, because by following the rules and rituals and doing karma kanda, we only ask for some material benedictions. So these people get the seed of devotional service only by the goodwill of Guru and Krishna. When one is engaged in devotional service, he is no longer attached to material activities. When a man is covered by different designations, he cannot engage in devotional service. One has to become freed from such designative activities and become pure in order to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead through purified senses. The sincere devotee is always helped by the Supersoul who resides within the heart of every living entity. So this is a special relationship of the Lord with his devotees. He not only stops them from doing any material activities, but also he guides them from within. He says, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. This is a stage of becoming free from the contamination of the material world. At such a time, a devotee makes friends with another devotee, and his engagement in material activities ceases completely. At that time, he attains the favor of the Lord and loses his faith in material civilization, which begins with Varnashram Dharma. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks clearly of one's becoming liberated from the Varnashram Dharma, the most exalted system of human civilization. Because Varnashram Dharma is for the material society, for it to function properly. But a devotee is already transcended it. And this is the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he himself says, I'm not a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. I'm not a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanprastha, Sannyasi. What am I? I am the eternal servant of Lord Krishna. Gopi Bharatu Padakamalayora Dasa Das Anudasa. Through the disciplic succession, one can attain this conclusion, which is perfect elevation to the transcendental platform. So this is the platform. This is beyond any bodily designation or anything material. This is the platform we need to attain. Who am I? I'm just an eternal servant of who? Not even servant of Krishna, servant of Krishna. That's the mood of a devotee. Tasmat karmasu barhishman ajnanadarth kashishu martha drishtim kritha shrotra sparshishvasprishtivastushu. My dear King Barhishman, you should never, out of ignorance, take to the Vedic rituals or to fruitive activity which may be pleasing to hear about or which may appear to be the goal of self-interest. You should never take these to be the ultimate goal of life. So finally, Narad Muni is coming to the instruction that he wanted to give. So he created the whole story, the whole narrative, just to make King Barhishman or Prachin Barhi, to make him interested in what he was going to say and how he was going to say. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, the resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So this is for people who want to follow the Karma Kanda rituals. Generally, people are very much attracted to the fruitive activities sanctioned in the Vedic rituals. One may be very much attracted to becoming elevated to heavenly planets by performing great sacrifices like those of King Barhishman. Sri Narad Muni wanted to stop King Barhishwan from engaging in such fruitive activities. Therefore, he is now directly telling him, don't be interested in such temporary benefits. In modern civilization, people are very much interested in exploiting the resources of material nature through the methods of science. Indeed, this is considered advancement. This is not actually advancement, however, but is simply pleasing to hear. Although we are advancing according to such concocted methods, we are forgetting our real purpose. Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore says, materialistic studies are the glare of Maya only, for they are an obstacle to spiritual progress. But at the same time, we don't say don't do materialistic studies, but we do say that side by side, do spiritual studies as well, and then make a balance between the two. The temporary comforts of life experienced either on this planet or on other planets are all to be taken as illusory because they do not touch the real purpose of life. The real purpose of life is to go back to Godhead. Ignorant of the real purpose of life, people take to either gross materialistic activities or ritualistic activities. King Barhishwan is herein requested not to be attached to such activities. In the Vedas, it is stated that the performance of sacrifice is the actual purpose of life. A section of Indian population known as Arya Samajis laid too much stress on the sacrificial portion of the Vedas. This verse, however, indicates that such sacrifices are to be taken as illusory. Actually, the aim of human life should be God realization of Krishna consciousness. The Vedic performances are, of course, very, very glittering and pleasing to hear about, but they do not serve the real purpose of life. So some places in Vedas, it is said the performance of sacrifice is the actual purpose of life. Because Vedas, that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, Vedas mostly deal with three modes of nature. And in that, 96% of Vedic injunctions deal with Karma Kanda. 3.9% deal with Gyan Kanda. And only a very little portion deals with Upasana Kanda or Bhakti. And that is the reason after compiling all the Vedic literature, even Vyasadeva was not satisfied. So the compiler of Vedas is not satisfied. So how can we even think of that if we follow only little bit portion of the Vedas, we can be satisfied. Little bit means the karma kanda activities. So that's why bhakti is very rare. And it has to be followed properly. And that is the reason when Vedvyasi was not satisfied, Narad Muni came and same Narad Muni gave him instructions. Because you have not described the activities of the Lord, the devotional service towards the Lord, that's why you're not satisfied. So then that's when in his mature stage, because he had compiled all the Vedic literature, Upanishads, Itihas, Puran, Vedanta Sutra, then he wrote this Srimad Bhagavatam. He compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the result of the mature fruit of the tree of all the Vedic literature. Swam lokam na viduste yatra devo janardana ahur dhumradhiyo vedam sakarma kamat tad vidaha. Those who are less intelligent accept the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies as all in all. They do not know that the purpose of Vedas is to understand one's own home, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead lives. Not being interested in the real home, they illusion and search after other homes. Generally, people are not aware of their interest in life to return home back to Godhead. People do not know about their real home in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there are many Vaikuntha planets, and the topmost planet is Krishna Loka, Golok Vrindavan. Despite the so-called advancement of civilization, there is no information on the Vaikuntha Lokas, the spiritual planets. At the present moment, so-called advanced civilization civilized men are trying to go to other planets, but they do not know that even if they go to highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, they have to come back down again to this planet. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. If one goes to the highest planetary system within this universe, it still has to return after the effects of pious activities are finished. Space vehicles may go very high in the sky, but as soon as the fuel is finished, they have to return to this earthly planet. All these activities are performed in illusion. The real attempt should now be to return home back to Godhead. The process is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Matiyajino Apima. Those who engage in the devotion service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead return home back to Godhead. Human life is very valuable and one should not waste it in vain exploration of other planets. One should be intelligent enough to return to Godhead. One should be interested in information about the spiritual Vaikuntha planets, and in particular the planet known as Golok Vrindavan, and should learn the art of going there by the simple method of devotion service, beginning with hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So, going to all these different planets after doing so much of scientific explorations and the research and the calculations and doing so many things. Like recently, we are hearing the Chinese sent a spacecraft to moon, and it's bringing back, it has already brought back, I don't know, the rocks from moon. Wasting so much of time and energy and money just to get some rocks from moon. Of course, they say that we'll do some studies on these rocks and find out how they are formed or this or that, whatever they want to find out, that's up to them. But the point is, Prabhupada is making, even if they went to moon, they still had to come back. And that is true for even Brahmaloka. So best is go to spiritual world, Krishna Loka, from where we don't have to come back. And the process there is not to do all these scientific explorations and the space research or this or that. Just hearing and chanting. Begins with hearing. So this is what Bhagavatam says in 12th canto. One can go to the supreme planet, Param Vrajet, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. This is especially meant for the people of this age. Kalera doshanidhe. It is a special advantage of this age that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become purified of all material contamination and return home back to Godhead. There is no doubt about this. So it said, Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. So it said Param Vrajet. One attains the highest destination. Now it's all about faith, whether we have faith in this or not. Text 49. Astirya darbha pragagraha karsanen kshiti mandalam stabdo brihad vadhanmani karma navaishi yat param tat karma haritosham yat sa vidya tanmateryaya. My dear king, the entire world is covered with the sharp points of kusha grass. And on the strength of this, you have become proud because you have killed various types of animals in sacrifices. Because of your foolishness, you do not know that devotional service is the only way one can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cannot understand this fact. Your only activities should be those that can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our education should be such that we can become elevated to Krishna consciousness. In this verse, the great Sage Narad Muni directly insults a king because he was engaged in performing sacrifices that entailed the killing of a great number of animals. The king was thinking that he was great for having performed so many sacrifices, but the great Sage Narad directly chastises him, informing him that his animal killing only leads to his being puffed up with false prestige. Actually, anything that is done which does not lead to Krishna consciousness is a sinful activity. And any education that does not lead one to understand Krishna is false education. If Krishna consciousness is missing, one is simply engaged in false activities and false educational pursuits. So any activity, whether it is karma kanda or karmic activity or any activity which does not lead one to Krishna consciousness is a sinful activity. That's a heavy statement actually. People will think, oh, I'm doing yajna and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Am I sinful? Well, according to Prabhupada or according to Bhagavatam, one is. The reason being, this body, the capabilities of this body, the resources that Krishna has given in this universe are basically meant to be used in his service. His service, he doesn't say doing the service of mind or the body or society that constitutes my service. Otherwise, why would he say manmana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru in Bhagavad Gita? Because that is a real process. Otherwise, if we do just pious activities, those are good, but we don't get out of this material world. So in a way, material world is considered a prison house. And in a prison house, only the sinful prisoners are kept. And by doing pious activities, even if we go to Brahmaloka, we are still in the material universe. We're not out of it. So in the material universe, which is prison house, only prisoners or criminals are kept. So means we are criminals, even if we go to Brahmaloka. Okay, so level of consciousness will be different from those who have gone to Pataloka or to Narkloka. But regardless, we are still in the prison house. So only way to get out of it is doing devotional service. And then that, because that is not a sinful activity. That's the activity that pleases Krishna. And the Prabhupada, any education that does not lead one to understand Krishna is false education. Any education. Wow. Because it does not take us out of this material world. It does not make us understand or serve Krishna. What's the use of that kind of education? So Bhagavatam is very heavy and Prabhupada's purpose make it more interesting actually. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
So it was again a very absorbing class. Thank you so much. Um, so you mentioned about devotional service. So devotional service means pure love. And when we talk about pure love, that means to love everyone, every entity selflessly, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, and everything. So, so it's like nowadays it looks like it is this kind of love is very rare to find, and then even when we love our own family members, the natural tendency of having expectation and attachment automatically comes in spite of chanting mantras and doing services. So, how to remain unaffected or have a selfless attitude? If you can share some tips.
Um, See, even I don't have that. So I'm also struggling. Only thing that I've understood from Prabhupada's books, if we remain engaged in devotional service, then we come out of this bodily conception of life. All these things that you're talking is because we think we are this body, and we are in this consciousness since times immemorial. And as soon as we understand we are not this body, and everybody else is also not their bodies, so we will serve them, we'll deal with them on a spiritual platform. And not just the human beings, animals, plants, birds, everything. Of course, that stage takes time. So, well, whatever time it takes, we
Yes,
still have to,
Prabhuji.
we just have to continue with our services properly.
If I see myself, I feel like I am nowhere progressing. Like, I mean, I feel like very surprising. Instead of, in spite of at least adopting 0.1% some devotional activities, I don't see any improvement. So that's why I find it very, very, um, I mean, surprised. Why? I mean,
Are you chanting 16 rounds regularly?
yes, Prabhuji.
How long you've been doing that?
Well, when you ask me about the chanting, honestly speaking, I have been chanting past 3 years, 16 rounds. But offensive chanting, I would say 50% is like offensive chanting, and then 50% is like sometimes sitting in one place, closing the eyes like that. So mostly, I would rather say
So, so you're aware of that it's not attentive chanting.
yes, Prabhuji.
So isn't that progress?
Uh, in what sense? Means?
At least you're aware that I'm not attentively chanting.
Yeah, true.
Isn't that progress? Earlier we were not even aware of I'm not attentively chanting. I mean, come on, we have to take baby steps.
Absolutely right.
So this is advancement. So take baby steps. It's okay. We all are in the same boat. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, I feel like I am the most, I don't know, I sometimes feel like no matter small things, like suppose if I see my family member is suffering, I also feel very sad. But however, I should not feel like that. but such attitude comes. So then I realized that it means like I'm very attached with my family members because of that. I feel like that it should not come,
I
but it comes
mean,
naturally.
no. Vaishnavas doesn't mean they become rocks or stones. Vaishnavas are par dukhi dukhi. If you see somebody unhappy, you become unhappy. There's nothing wrong with that.
So
To
much
see
to
somebody
learn.
suffering, you also feel unhappy. Okay, it could be your mother, it could be your father, and you're unhappy because they're suffering. Whichever way, it doesn't mean we become rocks after becoming devotees. In fact, we will have more emotions, pure emotions, definitely, but more emotions.
Yes,
But
Prabhuji.
your dealings will then be on the spiritual platform. Yes, it's a spirit, soul, lung, and body, and suffering. So let me help. Let me serve.
You are one of the great inspiration, Prabhuji, always. So thank you so much for your regular association.
I try. Chalo, I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Jai Shri
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji.
Jai
Jai
Shri
Sri
Thank you so much,
Thank
Prabhupada.
you, Prabhuji. Jai Shri Prabhupada.